Rachel.
Hi, Kristen.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. I'm so glad to have you on my YouTube channel today. And we're doing a new series, as I've told you, but I'm going to tell the camera now. We're doing a new series where I'm interviewing a whole bunch of my awesome friends and just giving a space where we can share what God has done in their life this year, just to bring some hope in this time, because it can be really easy just to get disappointed when things don't work out. So I know that you guys all have amazing testimonies of the goodness that God has done. So I want to give you an opportunity to share, and I want to hear.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. So let's start with the first question. Why don't you introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what you've been up to this year?
Hello, I'm Rachel. I am from the States, on the East Coast. This past year, I have been working in Australia, which is where I got to meet Kristen.
Yay!
Super exciting stuff. But unfortunately, because of Corona, I've had to come home. But I'm super excited because I'm expecting to go back in the fall.
Yay!
So I'm excited to see what the Lord does. But for now, I'm just working, spending time with family, and just enjoying my time back home.
So my next question is, Rachel, what have you been doing while you've been in Australia?
Yeah, so I've gotten to work with an organization called Pace Movement that partners with schools and churches. And we kind of get to be the bridges between the local church and the youth at schools. So every day I would go into a school, hang out with the students, go into faith and life classes, do mentorings at lunch, sports activities, basically be a servant wherever the school needed us.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would work at Central as well, helping with the youth, young adults, discipleship groups, and just kind of, increasing the amount of youth that hear about Jesus, while also getting to partner with the church and helping them continue to grow.
That's amazing. So what made you join Pace in the first place?
Yeah, so I actually applied 2 years ago.
Wow.
When I was second year at uni, and I just felt like the Lord said it wasn't time. So once I finished uni, I was like, okay, Lord, I want to grow in you more. I want to continue to advance the gospel. How do I do this?
Yeah.
And I was looking through my old journals, and I was seeing that I was praying about me going to Pace, and I was applied, and I started packing my stuff. I got accepted, and I was on my way.
So cool. So what made you pick Australia of all places?
Funny story. My mom wasn't super keen of the idea of me leaving for such a long time.
As any parent would, right?
Yeah. And she really, for her sake, she was like, I really want to know that you're going to be safe, that you're going to be okay. She's like, so I would really prefer if you would go to an English speaking first world nation, so I was just like, okay, I can respect that. I don't want to, give you a heart attack while I'm gone. So I was just praying, and I don't know, it was one of the places I always said I wanted to go, and I was like, it's the opportunity to, and I'm super glad that my mom put those barriers, because I wouldn't have wanted to choose any other place.
That's so cool. And I think that's what's so amazing about missions, is that we get to go to countries all over the world that we've always wanted to, but it's not just for a holiday and just to do the, blasé touristy things. We actually get to immerse ourselves in the culture and understand the people. And I think that helps us share God with them so much better. So my next question, which is a question that I love asking people, what is the biggest thing that God has done this year for you?
Yeah, I love this question because it's such a big question. But he's done so many great things, but I think the thing that I've really been pondering on and reminiscing on since I've been home is the relationships that I've made during my year in Australia. There's a handful of students that I've really had the opportunity to get very close with and really mentor and kind of see as little siblings, and kind of be okay, what does it look like to be a Christian? What does it look like to study the Bible? What does it look like to worship, to pray? And just giving them all the knowledge I have while I'm getting poured into by other people, so I have even more knowledge. So I think the relationships that I've made, the friendships that I've made with people within the school, outside the school, have been such an amazing part because they truly, truly like impacted who I am right now and where I'm going to be going later.
That's so cool. Wow. So being a part of PACE, Rachel, we've heard a bit about the organization, but what did a classic day in the life of Rachel look like for you?
Yeah, so a classic day would be waking up at like 6 in the morning because we had one car that we shared, and so we did pickups, and we would get to school at 8. And every day was a little different, but for the most part, we would get in at 8. We would begin praying for the students, the staff, our day, and then around 8:30, we would either do staff worship or a devotional group, or go into a classroom and teach a class on, faith and life. And then once a week, we would help out with chapels, run them, play worship for them, speak, organize it, the whole 10 yards. Then we would split off into our group and do our Bible study called Havram, which is just 4 steps on how to get the most out of the Word of God. So that we really process, understand, and not just, how can I apply this today, but okay, how did the people feel about it back then? And then into perspective now.
So cool.
We also had weekly trainings via Livewire. So we would watch Paul Gibbs, our founder, teach us something new, whether that was about new programs we could do or inspiration to keep going when things get really tough. And then after lunch or during lunch, we would help out and have programs. So we had a soccer program, we had an art program, a music program, a lunchtime program where we just played games with the students, mentoring, basically anything that we liked, could give to the students, we did. So it was a really cool experience, and that's where really most of my conversations came from with the kids. And then after lunch, depending on the day, we would either help out with sports, do a sausage sizzle.
You became very good at that, right?
We did like 50. It was awesome.
Wow.
So we just kind of helped out wherever we were needed. So it was good.
That's awesome. So what did Havram look like for you guys? Because you mentioned that's how you guys did the Bible study. So what did you guys kind of learn in that, if you could give like a brief overview? Because I think we're all so unique and our learning styles are all so different. So how did that work for you?
Yeah, so the one thing I really like about Havram is it encapsulates all learning styles. So it's 4 different stages. The first one is really good for people who love research, historical, significance, symbolism. And basically you just research a passage and how did the people feel about this? What were the symbolism? So if they were talking about salt, what did salt represent to the people in the Old Testament or the New Testament? And then we also had a stage where we would put ourselves in the shoes of the people there. So we would be writing in first perspective as if we were hearing it for the first time, with all our understanding, and it was really cool because it kind of showed us our hearts. And then another stage was a reflection or revelation stage where we would just ponder and be like, okay, Lord, who do you want me to share this with? What do you want me to do with it? What else do I need to know about this topic so I can get closer to you? So it was just a really cool little study that was broken up over 4 days so we can really fully understand the context of a passage.
That's so cool. And I loved as well how you talked about in the lunchtime groups that you each did something unique to you, because I know the rest of the team obviously, and you all played to your strengths. So how did you kind of find what was your strength that you could teach other people, and how would you, say you were talking with someone who didn't really know where to start, they wanted to teach the people around them, they wanted to impart what God was doing but do it in a creative way. How did you find that?
Yeah, it took some time, but just seeing what you're passionate about, that's really what it boils down to. Because if you don't love what you do, you're not going to be able to teach people through it. So for the soccer program, the guy who ran it played professional soccer. He loves it. He loves teaching it. So it created this outlet for him to be able to find a niche and be like, okay, I'm going to teach you soccer, but on top of that, I'm also going to teach you everything that the Lord's doing in my life. So it created like a safe space almost for the students to, and not just have fun, but be like, okay, if I have questions, I can ask. So I found mine because I just love talking with people. So everything I did was related around conversations. So I would pick groups of kids and be like, hey, I have a question for you, and ask a question, and that would spark a conversation. Or I'm really into music, so I was like, hey, I found a bunch of people who loved just jamming out and listening to music, dancing, things like that. I was like, hey, let's hang out at lunch. I'll bring my speaker, I'll bring some instruments, bring what you want, bring some food, your friends. And it just created a space, like I said, to really start a relationship and a connection. But then through that, after a couple weeks, was where they started being like, okay, I know who you are, I know why you're here. You need to tell me more about it.
I think that's the key, is building relationship and being open with that too. So if like you're not really sure like what you're supposed to be doing, or if you're having a bad day, it's okay to feel like that and just be honest, but don't let it affect your day. But I think that's important with being real and open in relationship. Hey,
absolutely. And the kids really liked that I had my own, like, obviously I didn't tell them like the depth of my struggles, but like they appreciated when I'd be like, hey guys, like I'm honestly not feeling like my best today. I would really appreciate it if you can kind of, help me, like encourage me, like I've been encouraging you. And I think they really enjoyed that because it showed that I wasn't just trying to, fill them up, but they were actually impacting me. It felt like they were coming along my journey, which they were. So it made them feel good, secure, and safe.
That's so cool.
But also important.
Yeah, absolutely. So going home now, obviously it happened quite quickly, right? I know it happened quickly for me. I think for everybody, it was this whole just like couple weeks of like, oh, what are we going to do? We didn't realize how serious this was. So going home now and making that really quick transition, what were some things that you did to help transition back into at least normal life? It's weird because it's this in-between stage. I think it's the same for me. It's like I don't know what's next. It's like in the middle, but like I don't really know. So how did you deal with that?
The first thing I did when I got home was reconnected with friends that have really encouraged me in the past. Because keeping up with the 14-hour time difference and being halfway across the world, it was really hard to keep in touch with people like I used to. But the first thing I did was like I called a bunch of my friends up and I was like, hey, I'm home. I'm really struggling. Like I know this is going to be a really difficult time, and I would really love if you could just help support me and gather around me. And just prayer and in love, and and my friends have been amazing. So I think the first thing I did was find a community to be a part of, and then be really intentional with that community and being honest with them too. Like some days are better than others, and sometimes I'm like, I'm having a great day, like this is awesome, I love being home. And then I'm like, I'm really sad.
Yes.
Cry.
The same.
It's been really cool to like, I guess, reconnect with old friends. But also they are challenging me to continue to stay in the Word, to continue to pray and hold on. So that's really helped, having like accountability, being like, okay, I have friends who care, who know me, but like they also want me to be better and continue the growth that I've been experiencing this past year. So that was really cool.
So good. So I loved how you're talking about accountability there, and I think it leads into the next question really well, is in this time where we're quite isolated from people. I know in Australia our rules are lifting a little bit, but a lot of other countries aren't yet, and that's perfectly fine. Everyone's at different stages. But how have you been keeping up your faith and building up your faith? You mentioned, having a good community around you that are pushing you to have those spiritual values and to keep them, and having that accountability. So how have you gone about building up your faith in this time as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think at this point, it's like, it's like, what is my character now? I've been growing so much, and it's like rubber's hitting the road. What is my character at this point? And a lot of it is just being honest with myself. Being like, I think recognizing like it's okay to feel, grief for what's happening, grief for this, like, grief for a situation, but also being like, but I know the truth. I know the foundation of who God is, and really just holding to that and not letting this be a time where I start questioning God's character. But I'm like, no, I know you're good. I know that you me. I know you love this world. And I just, like, it gives me like excitement because I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I know that something so great is gonna come from this.
Absolutely,
But, like,
yeah.
it's just right now I think it's, like I said, a time of character.
Yeah.
So I've just been reminding myself of the absolute truths that I know about God's character, and not letting myself sway from those. So every time I'm like, oh, this is such a bummer, or like, Lord, you made these promises to me, being like, no, yes, he did make these promises, but this isn't him, this is sin,
Yeah.
and I have to stand firm in like what he's doing. So just praying, even when I don't want to, worshiping, even when I don't feel like it, calling people and telling them like, hey, the amount of times I've called my friends and I was like, hey, I don't really want to read my Bible today. They're like, open it up, read this passage, pray about it, and move, just continue to, so standing in my truths, but also going to friends in times of need.
I loved the part about us saying worship when you don't want to. I think music and worship changes everything. When we praise, it completely changes your mood. So, I mean, for me, I've been like waking up, doing my quiet time, and then I'll have a shower and I'll just put the music on and belt out in the shower, and it gets you in this position just to praise and be thankful all day. And I find that really helps just to like position myself right, and same like what you're saying with the word, making sure I'm doing it every day, because once I've done it, I feel great. But it's building those habits. And I think it's so true when you're saying like the rubber hits the road. This is like where we're really defining our character, because God's character has never changed. It's always been the same from the beginning of time, and it will be the same for eternity. So I think it's funny how sometimes when stuff goes wrong, it's often how we perceive things to be, and then we're like, but God, you promised this, and he's like, hey, that was your thinking, not mine. Like, yeah, I promised, but it might not have been how you thought. I think you're so right. God is going to turn this around, and it's going to be amazing. And I think it's so true, like you said, he is good. He is good, and he turns every situation for good. So it's almost like the more worse it seems to us, the better God is going to turn it around and just make it even more incredible.
Amen. 100% agree.
Last couple of questions before we leave. What have you been doing in your free time now that you've been home?
Yeah. So I drive a convertible, and one of my favorite things to do is just drive around. I live right now in one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen in the Adirondack Park. It's literally just mountains and state forests, and it's quiet and peaceful up here. So I'll grab a friend, we'll hop in my car, put the roof down, our sunnies on, turn up our music, and just like talk and hang out, but also just like enjoy it and have fun. The other day I was out for like 6 hours just driving around.
Wow.
Yeah, burning gas is one of my favorite things to do.
That's so great, and it's good. It's so cheap right now.
Oh, absolutely. I can fill my whole tank for like $20.
That's so good. Wow. That's so beautiful. And I love being out in nature too. And I think now that we're allowed to at least get out in nature, I think that's so important, because God created it. And sometimes you just sit there just watching the clouds and you're just like, how could there not be a God that created this? It's crazy, right?
Yeah, we'll sit at one of our favorite spots and just like stare out over the mountains and the field and just be like in awe of the beauty of what he's created, and be like, we live here. Like this, like, we get to like see this every day and like worship God because of it.
All right, so the last question is one of my favorite questions to ask. We asked it in YWAM, all of our guest speakers, new people that we met. PADTS loved to ask this question, and we became known for this question. What is your favorite dessert?
My favorite dessert, hands down, is chocolate lava cake.
Yes.
Every time I go out to a store or like a restaurant and I order dessert, that is forever what I'll order. I don't know why it's so good. It's literally just chocolate cake with hot like syrup. Yeah. But it is fantastic and amazing, and I without fail eat it every time.
Thank you so much for sharing, Rachel. I've loved having you. I've loved getting to chat with you.
Thank you for having me. I loved being here. I'm really honored.
Oh, I'm so glad. Well, hopefully we will see you again sometime soon. Bye.
I heard something and I jumped because it's a freak. With my eyes, if you see my eyes at one point go.
Yeah. like this, you're just like...
There's a mouse, come get it. Okay, that was terrifying, because I was hearing it, but then you said something about your cat, so I was like, oh, maybe I'm just hearing the cat.
Yeah.
Walking. No,
No,
it's a mouse in my
it's a mouse. Well, there you go. Have fun catching that.
Oh, I'm not, my brother is.
Right.